Picture this. You're looking at an old photograph from 1903. It shows a funeral scene on a bright summer day. 10 family members dressed in black stand around a small wooden coffin decorated with white lilies. Their faces are sad and serious, frozen in Victorian mourning tradition. The photo looks normal at first glance, just another tragic moment from the past, captured for posterity. The composition is typical for the era. Family members arranged in a formal line, hands folded respectfully. The lighting appears natural, with strong sunlight casting distinct shadows across the scene. Everything seems ordinary about this somber gathering. But then, you count the shadows on the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 shadows. 10 people. One extra shadow that shouldn't exist. This is the story of the Blackwood family funeral portrait, a photograph that hid a terrifying secret for over a century. What you're about to hear will change how you look at old family photos forever. This isn't just a tale of supernatural horror, it's a warning about the dangerous lengths people will go to for wealth and power. The Blackwood family lived in a sprawling Gothic estate in the hills of New England. They were prominent industrialists who owned textile mills and shipping companies across 3 states. Despite their public success, they were intensely private people who rarely entertained guests or attended social functions. Their neighbors knew them only by reputation and occasional glimpses of their black carriages racing through town. In 1903, tragedy struck the Blackwood household. Their youngest daughter, Elara, died at the tender age of 8 years old. The official cause of death was listed as an accidental fall from a second-story balcony of the family mansion. Local authorities conducted a brief investigation and found no evidence of foul play. The family hired a local photographer to capture the funeral. Everyone stood in a line beside the coffin. The sun was shining that day, casting clear shadows on the ground behind them. The photographer took the shot and developed the glass plate negative. Nothing seemed unusual at the time. The photograph was stored away in the family's private library with hundreds of other documents and images. Years passed like pages turning in a forgotten book. Decades went by without anyone examining the funeral portrait closely. The Blackwood name gradually faded from local memory as the family withdrew completely from public life. Their magnificent estate was eventually sold to settle debts. Personal belongings were scattered to various buyers, collectors, and charitable organizations. In 2019, Dr. Eris Thorne received a dusty cardboard box containing dozens of old photographs. She worked as a digital archivist at the New England Historical Preservation Society, specializing in Victorian-era images and documents. Her expertise lay in restoring damaged photographs using advanced digital techniques. Her job was to scan and preserve historical photos before they deteriorated completely, ensuring future generations could access these windows into the past. Eris had restored thousands of old photographs during her 15-year career. She had seen everything imaginable: wedding portraits with elaborate Victorian gowns, family gatherings around Christmas trees, formal business meetings in wood-paneled offices. Most restoration jobs were routine work that required patience more than detective skills. But when she opened the Blackwood collection, something felt immediately different about these particular images. She carefully removed the funeral portrait from its yellowed protective sleeve using cotton gloves. The glass plate negative was cracked along one edge but still perfectly readable. She placed it on her professional high-resolution scanner and began the careful digitization process, adjusting settings to capture every detail. The image slowly appeared on her computer screen in crisp digital format. Eris started her usual systematic inspection routine, examining every corner of the photograph for damage or anomalies. She counted the people in the photograph first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 family members dressed in traditional black mourning clothes, arranged in a solemn line. Then she examined the shadows cast on the ground behind the mourners. This step was crucial for understanding the lighting conditions and time of day when the photo was taken. She began counting methodically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Eris stopped breathing for a moment. She counted again more slowly, pointing at each shadow with her finger to avoid mistakes. 10 people standing in the photograph. 11 distinct shadows on the ground behind them. The 11th shadow was deeply unsettling. It was unnaturally long and distorted, like it came from someone exceptionally tall and unnaturally thin. The shadow stretched across the ground in a twisted shape, right next to a middle-aged woman who appeared to be the grieving mother. But the space beside this woman was completely empty. No person, no object, nothing that could possibly cast such a shadow. Eris had worked with thousands of damaged and deteriorated photographs throughout her career. Sometimes water stains, chemical damage, or physical scratches could create illusions that looked like extra figures or shadows. But this anomaly was completely different from anything she had encountered before. The shadow was too clear, too detailed, and too perfectly formed. It had the exact same density and sharpness as all the other shadows in the image. This wasn't damage or deterioration. This was something that had been there when the original photograph was taken. She began researching the Blackwood family immediately, driven by professional curiosity and growing unease. Public records at the county courthouse showed they owned several profitable textile mills and maintained considerable wealth throughout the late 1800s. Property deeds revealed they possessed thousands of acres of prime New England real estate. But after 1903, their behavior changed dramatically. The family became completely reclusive, shutting themselves away from all social contact. No more public events, no business partnerships with other families, no appearances at community gatherings of any kind. The death certificate for young Elara Blackwood was surprisingly easy to locate in the municipal archives. Accidental death by falling from height, no formal investigation conducted, no witnesses interviewed, no suspicious circumstances noted. The case was closed within just 3 days, which seemed unusually quick for such a tragic incident involving a prominent family. But Eris was trained never to accept surface explanations when dealing with historical mysteries. She kept digging deeper into available records and archives. She contacted local historical societies, genealogy research groups, and museum collections throughout the region. Eventually, someone mentioned that additional Blackwood family papers had been donated to a small, underfunded museum in their original hometown decades earlier. The museum's basement storage area contained dozens of cardboard boxes filled with personal documents that had never been properly cataloged. Eris spent hours carefully examining family letters, detailed business records, household inventories, and personal correspondence. But the most significant discovery was a small, leather-bound diary with tarnished brass clasps. The name, Elara Blackwood, was embossed in faded gold letters on the front cover. The diary entries began normally, written in the careful handwriting of a well-educated 8-year-old girl. Elara wrote about her collection of porcelain dolls, her daily lessons with the family tutor, and her favorite activities around the estate grounds. Her early entries painted the picture of a lonely but imaginative child living in isolation on the family's remote property. But as Eris continued reading, the tone of the entries began changing in subtle but disturbing ways. Elara started writing about a new companion who had recently appeared in her life. She called him her shadow friend, or sometimes the man in the corner. According to her increasingly excited descriptions, this friend was exceptionally tall with unnaturally long limbs and always preferred to stand in the darkest areas of rooms. Most importantly, only Elara could see him clearly. At first, Elara seemed happy about her secret companion. She wrote that he told her stories and played games with her. But her parents dismissed him as an imaginary friend. They told her she was too old for make-believe. The diary entries became increasingly disturbing as weeks passed, and Elara's relationship with her invisible companion deepened. She wrote that her shadow friend was becoming possessive and demanding of her time and attention. He expressed anger and jealousy when she showed interest in playing with the children of visiting servants or when she spent time with her governess learning social skills. According to Elara's frightened handwriting, the entity had begun making threatening statements about her future. He insisted that she belonged exclusively to him and should not waste time forming relationships with other people. He promised they would be constant companions for the rest of her life. The final entry was written the day before her death. Elara's handwriting was shaky and scared. She wrote that her shadow friend had told her something terrible. She had to stay with him forever, or something bad would happen to her family. The entry ended with a chilling line. "He says we're going to be together soon. I don't want to go, but he won't let me say no." This discovery completely transformed the investigation from a simple photographic anomaly into something far more sinister. Elara's death suddenly seemed much less likely to be accidental. Eris searched for additional evidence to corroborate the diary's disturbing implications. She eventually found correspondence from the funeral photographer stored in a different historical archive across the state. The photographer had written several letters to a professional colleague describing his deeply unsettling experience at the Blackwood estate during the funeral session. The photographer described the assignment as profoundly disturbing and unlike any funeral he had documented in 20 years of professional work. Throughout the entire photo session, the mother, Lenora Blackwood, kept turning her head and whispering softly to an empty space directly beside her. She acted as if someone was standing right there, responding to questions and offering comfort, but no one else could see or hear anything. The photographer also noted something extremely unusual about the lighting conditions that bright summer day. Despite brilliant sunshine overhead, the light seemed strangely weak and diffused around the family gathering. He was forced to use a much longer exposure time than normal for outdoor photography. In his letter, he wrote that it felt like something invisible was absorbing the light itself. But the most shocking and disturbing discovery came when Eris finally located Alistair Blackwood's private personal journal hidden in a secret compartment of an antique desk that had been sold at auction. Ilara's father had kept meticulous detailed records, but not of routine business dealings as expected. Instead, the leather-bound journal was filled with occult symbols, complex ritual diagrams, detailed accounts of spiritualism experiments, and increasingly desperate attempts to contact supernatural entities. Alistair hadn't just been curious about the supernatural. He had been actively trying to summon otherworldly entities. The journal revealed his true motivation. He wanted to secure and expand his wealth through supernatural means. The entries described months of ritual preparations. Alistair had studied ancient texts and followed precise instructions. He wanted to make contact with a powerful spirit that could guarantee his business success. According to his journal, the summoning worked. An entity appeared to him during a ritual in late 1902, but it demanded payment for its services. The price was the companionship of his firstborn child. Alistair initially refused, but the entity promised incredible wealth and power. His businesses would prosper beyond imagination. His family name would be remembered forever. All he had to do was let the spirit befriend his daughter. Alistair convinced himself it would be harmless. The spirit just wanted a playmate. Children had imaginary friends all the time. What could go wrong? The journal entries after the pact was made told a different story. Alistair watched in horror as his daughter became obsessed with her invisible companion. She stopped playing with other children. She spent hours talking to empty rooms. She became pale and withdrawn. But the business benefits were undeniable. Contracts appeared from nowhere. Competitors mysteriously failed. Money poured in faster than ever before. Alistair was torn between guilt and greed. The final journal entry was written after Ilara's death. Alistair admitted the truth he could never tell anyone else. His daughter hadn't fallen from the balcony by accident. The entity had claimed its payment. Ilara had been found at the bottom of the balcony, but witnesses said she had been talking to someone just before she fell. She had been pleading with an invisible presence, saying, "I don't want to go," over and over again. The entity had either frightened her over the edge or pushed her directly. Either way, Alistair knew he was responsible for his daughter's death, but he couldn't confess without revealing his occult activities and destroying the family's reputation. Now, the funeral photograph made perfect sense. The extra shadow wasn't a camera error or developing mistake. It was the entity itself, standing beside the grieving family. It had attended the funeral to witness the completion of their bargain. The spirit had claimed Ilara's life and taken its place as an invisible member of the Blackwood family. The photograph captured this horrifying moment for posterity. Eris's investigation revealed the aftermath of this dark pact. The Blackwood fortune did grow enormously after Ilara's death. Within 5 years, they became one of the wealthiest families in New England, but the family paid a terrible price for their supernatural success. Alistair developed a severe mental illness and died in an asylum. Lenora never recovered from her daughter's death and died of grief within 3 years. The remaining Blackwood children suffered mysterious accidents and illnesses. None lived to see their 30th birthday. The family line ended completely within a single generation. Their vast wealth was inherited by distant relatives who knew nothing about its dark origins. The estate was sold and demolished. The family name disappeared from history books. But the photograph remained. A silent witness to one of the most disturbing supernatural bargains ever documented. For over a century, it had hidden its secret in plain sight. The extra shadow in the 1903 funeral portrait wasn't just an unexplained anomaly. It was proof that some prices are too high to pay, no matter how great the reward. The Blackwood family thought they could control forces beyond their understanding. They believed wealth and power justified any sacrifice. But in the end, their greed destroyed everything they claimed to protect. This story reminds us that darkness can hide behind the most respectable appearances. The Blackwoods looked like a successful, loving family in their portrait. But underneath their proper Victorian facade lay corruption, supernatural horror, and the ultimate betrayal of parental love. Sometimes the most innocent-looking photographs contain the deepest secrets. The next time you look at an old family portrait, count the shadows, you might discover something that was never meant to be seen. What do you think happened in that mysterious photograph? Do you believe supernatural forces can leave permanent traces in photographic images? Have you ever noticed something unexplained or impossible in an old family photo hanging in your home? Share your own theories and experiences in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep investigation into historical mysteries and supernatural secrets, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content. There are countless other mysterious photographs and unexplained historical documents waiting to reveal their dark secrets. You won't want to miss what shocking discoveries we uncover next.